week. And it's the first time we've ever done anything like it. So we wanted to see what the reception was like and whether or not the information was useful and valuable to people. We've had some great feedback from yesterday's session already. And with that in mind, we are kind of looking for topics that people would like to hear about, so we can plan some more for the new year. But at this moment in time, there's nothing actually scheduled with a date.
Yeah. Because one of the things, like I mentioned in that meeting yesterday, everything's getting more and more complicated. There's so many services get dribs and drabs of funding now, so you get lots and lots of services doing similar things. I think this is a great place to advertise those services, who's the person, what the contact number is. So it's like an A to Z in itself.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion and something we definitely want to keep updating and developing.
Yeah, this would be a great place to get those people on. Tell me what you're doing, how you contact us. This is what we do, and to try and keep an up-to-date awareness.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I've been told that we're live now, so for the benefit of all of our speakers, this is being recorded, and that recording is rolling at the moment. That means that we will be able to share the content on the council's YouTube channel in future. For anybody that misses the live event today, then they can get on there and watch it retrospectively and hopefully see all the presentations. Welcome to all of our attendees. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm conscious it's just a couple of minutes, well, a couple of seconds before 10 o'clock. So I'm just easing my way into the introduction quite gradually. But just to reassure everyone who is watching, if you're not one of our presenting speakers today that you can see on the screen at the moment, then your microphone and video will be switched off. So please relax because we can't see or hear you, and it will stay that way for the duration of today's session. We expect to be here for around about an hour. I'm just so grateful to all of you for attending and really grateful to all of our panelists for joining and giving up their time today to present and share this information. Just for a bit of context, in the lead up to the webinars today, we've obviously all been through just the most unusual year. I'm loath to use the word unprecedented, it's bandied around far too much, but it has really been just that. And one of the things we did during the summer as the Borough Council was to really reach out to our partners, parish councils, community groups, other organisations, stakeholders in communities, and ask them to share with us how it had all been for them, what happened, how did you respond, how did that go, what did you find was lacking or that was needed, what issues were you faced with, and what concerns do you really have about the future, because we're all really still in it. You know, we've just finished a second national lockdown and we're in this tier 3 in Staffordshire, and it's challenging, and there's a lot of unknowns and things that we're all trying to sort of expect and project for the future without really knowing what that's going to be. And the feedback that we received when we asked those questions and we joined those discussions was really useful. And it did tell us that some people who were really at the heart of communities, people who were there helping residents, picking up the phone, receiving those phone calls and emails where people were reaching out and needing help, they said, we need to understand better where to signpost these people. How do we introduce them to the right services? People are really, really concerned about finances at the moment. You know, the furlough scheme's been up and down. We expected it to end in November. It was extended. Job losses and unemployment, reduced incomes, people finding themselves in situations that they've never been in before, who are not really wise and in tune with things like benefit systems. They've always worked, and maybe they're just hanging on by the skin of their teeth, and there's lots of stresses and anxieties that come from that. People who generally just are not coping well with the social exclusion and isolation that being in lockdown has put upon us all. And parish councils and community groups and volunteers saying, how do I help someone I'm really concerned about, really deeply concerned? And how do I navigate the whole offer of services and help that's out there? Where do I pitch it? When someone tells me that they're feeling really low, how do I know whether I need a clinical assessment, a GP, a counsellor, a psychologist, or whether or not I can put them into something that is more like getting fresh air and exercise and that'll make you feel better? I don't want to patronise these people. I don't want to undermine or undervalue the way that they're feeling, but I'm not an expert, and so I don't know across the range of services where I should steer this individual that's maybe only opening up to me. And that's a huge privilege and a responsibility at the same time to know how to support those people. And so in response, we wanted to do a couple of things. We wanted to host these webinars to invite our professionals, our experts from those very services that I'm talking about to come and give us an insight into how it works and what they do and how they help people. We've also done a huge update on Stafford Borough Council's website, hopefully providing you with all of that signposting information. And it is a moving feast. We want to continually update that and make sure that it reflects the issues that you're being presented with, that communities are facing, and gives you those real tools and sources of information that will help to guide you through supporting people with that. So just back to a little bit of housekeeping for today. That's the context of why we're here. You told us there were some things you needed more information about. We're going to hopefully deliver some of that to you today. So as I said before, people that are watching at home, if you're not presenting today, we can't see or hear you. That said, our chat box is live, and hopefully you will have seen some chat already from Sarah and I just welcoming you to the session. Please feel free to be interactive with us in that chat box, introduce yourselves, ask any questions that you want to ask, we're open to those. Share any links, we'll try and share some links too, so you can be sort of exploring websites and getting more information during the session and afterwards. But if you feel there's something relevant that you want to share and signpost other attendees to, please do pop those links in the chat box. This is being recorded so we can view it again later, and we'll do our best to answer questions in session, but if we get lots of questions and that's not possible, please be assured that we will answer them at a later point. We'll post something like an FAQs on our website so you can see the question and answer responses on there. We were very fortunate yesterday to have an opening address from Jeremy Pert, councillor who is our cabinet member for communities and health at Stafford Borough Council. And he gave us a great introduction to open this series of webinars, of which this is the second. So if anyone is interested to go back and watch the first, where the key topic there was financial distress and hardship, that is on our YouTube channel, and you're very welcome to do that. And we'll make sure we share links to all the YouTube videos to everyone after the webinars have completed as well. If you go back and watch the first one, you'll get to see Councillor Pert's opening address, which is really worth listening to. Towards the end of this session, I have some closing slides to share with you all, in which I will share contact information for all of our speakers today. So I'm sure each of them with their presentations have got contact information there for you. But if you do miss it, don't worry, there'll be a reminder of it on that closing slide with the key phone numbers and email addresses and websites and things that you need. Please do remember that if you would like to watch our final webinar, which is this afternoon at 2 p.m, that's on sustainability and capacity building, you will need to register for that by clicking its unique link, and I'll show you where to do that on our website in a few moments. So if everyone's happy with that, I'll just take us straight into the first presentation, which is around the Council's online resources and our Talk to Us campaign. I'm going to share my screen. Apologies. Good old technology, it's great when it works. Oh, sorry guys, I'm trying to get it from the start.
Hopefully third time lucky, but if not, let me know and I'll share my screen and
Thanks,
you can
Sarah.
just point to where you want me to go.
Here we go. How's that? Got it? thanks for the thumbs up. That's helpful. A bit lonely when you can't see anyone. Okay, so here's our agenda for the day and a list of our speakers. Can you see that, Sarah?
I can see it, Sam, but you're not in full screen
Full screen.
mode. Yeah.
I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah, just go. If you do from your beginning on the left-hand side, it should bring it up full screen.
Doesn't like that button for me. Do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure, no worries. Just
sorry, everyone. It went much more smoothly yesterday. I'd rather it happens to me than someone else. There we go. Thank you, Sarah. Okay. So first up, we are going to have a quick look at Borough Council's website, as I said, and then our first speaker is Danny Finch from Midlands Partnership Foundation Trust. Danny's going to give us a bit of an oversight into what it's been like really at the front line of mental health services during the last 9 months, I guess, and some of the impacts that they've really seen on people and the kind of people that are coming through to services and how that's been different recently. So I won't say too much more. Then we have Dan Gibbons from Resolve, who is going to talk to us a bit more about mental health and wellbeing services that Resolve are providing. Sharon Whitchurch from Starfish Health and Wellbeing is going to give us a presentation on social prescribing. Esther Bromley from Support Staffordshire is here to talk to us about Support Staff's befriending training offer, which is really useful. And then hopefully I'll be able to close our session today. Have the next slide, please, Sarah. Okay, so this is Stafford Borough Council's Talk to Us campaign of online resources. This is the website I was referring to before when I said we'd done a bit of an update of all the information that we have. Some of it's not new, I must confess, but we've rearranged it to really speak to people who might not have come to use these resources before. Can you click into the website for me, if possible, please, Sarah? And then just scroll down. We wanted to try to prioritise information predominantly about financial stuff, the things that people might be really worrying about at the moment. Wanting to help people in that kind of Martin Lewis money supermarket style, think about, you know, your key bills, how you prioritise things like your rent and mortgage payments, any sort of loans, those critical things, paying for food, credit card bills, and obviously Christmas is a big worry for everybody at the moment. So we've included a lot of that practical information there. There is a little bit more stuff about mental health and wellbeing resources. The links will take you out to external sites that have got really good compilations of resources. And I think you'll get a lot from our speakers today who also have their own resources to share. So I would encourage everybody to go to that website, explore it, click the external links, come back and share it with your peers, share it with residents that are concerned. The more familiar you are with that web page, then the more you'll be able to use it to signpost people quickly and accurately, depending on the concern that they're having. Okay, have the next slide, please, Sarah. So I'm just going to introduce Danny now. I think I've said enough already. So welcome, Danny Finch. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to mute myself so that you can take over and just give us that bit of insight, please, into what's been going on.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Yeah, so I'll give you a very brief overview of some of the things that we've seen at Midland Partnership Foundation Trust in our mental health services throughout this year, really. So since the start of the COVID-19 sort of pandemic and lockdown. So this isn't percentage information from the trust. This is from practitioners on the ground. I'm a dual diagnosis worker by background, and my substantive post is with the crisis response and home treatment team based at St George's. But I have been doing I've been commissioned by Stafford Borough Council since the 1st of April 2019 to do some work with Stafford Borough Council. But one of the things that I have done from the last 14 years is I run a dual diagnosis link workers forum. And this forum consists of people with a specialist interest in dual diagnosis and substance misuse throughout our trust and external to the trust as well. So we have various partners, which will be, currently we've got STARS, we've got the housing options team at Stafford Borough Council, etc. So all services that can give us some useful information and also gain some information back to support people with a dual diagnosis. So these practitioners in mental health specifically, so the access team, which I'll talk about in a while in a little bit more depth, the access team has seen a lot more referrals coming through for people through the pandemic that are not known to mental health services and have got no previous mental health sort of background, or they've not been involved in mental health services, no previous treatment or diagnosis. They're coming through in less numbers, so there's been less referrals coming through, but the referrals are far more complex. So we're still dealing with the people that we know are in mental health services that we've been supporting in the longer term, but this is a new group of people coming through that have got no history in mental health services. It's mainly social sort of issues that have turned into our, the psychological distressing state and impacting on their mental health. So we've also got an increasing amount of younger males with alcohol issues, all again revolved around social issues around COVID and COVID-related anxieties, and far more awareness of females across the age range with alcohol issues as well. Again, sort of COVID anxiety-related social implications. So social care in mental health, and mirroring that. They've said exactly the same thing. They're having a huge increase in people requests to do mental health acts and people being brought in on section 136 of the Mental Health Act to a place of safety for assessment. Again, social care is saying, and this was from one of the social workers that takes part in the Mental Health Act assessments, that again, huge increase in people that are not known to services, no history in mental health services, huge increase in younger males coming through with alcohol-related issues relating to social anxiety, and females across the board of all ages, social-related anxieties causing distress. So that's the sort of picture that we've got from our practitioners so far on the ground. We have remained doing face-to-face visits throughout the pandemic. Obviously, this is sort of on a needs-led basis. So obviously people that are more at risk and need the face-to-face will be seeing people that can be have phone support, or we use one consultation for our service users. So, the member of staff will use Microsoft Teams platform, and we've got a one consultation platform where they will be sent a link in email that they can join from a waiting room. So there's, phone calls, one consultation, and face-to-face. Those are the sort of options that we've got at the moment to see people. Crisis team still there 24/7. The crisis team again have seen an increase in people with COVID-related anxieties. A lot of it around losing jobs, furlough, finances, losing accommodation, issues with being cooped up and little social interaction outside of the family circle. Obviously, relationship breakdown has been a big one, and domestic violence has increased as well, unfortunately. So that's a little bit of an overview about what we've seen in changes through the pandemic so far. Obviously, we're moving into another stage now. I don't think next year is going to look too different from what we've seen so far this year. Obviously, we've got this vaccine that will be, they're looking at, I think, in about the next week's time. As soon as this vaccine's in the country, they're going to roll it out. And I'm sure you've seen on the news how they're going to do that with the most vulnerable people first and filter it down. And obviously the NHS is going to play a huge part in administering these vaccines. So I think we'll see quite a few people's roles changing to roll out this vaccine. Obviously there's millions of people to vaccinate, isn't there? So that's a huge task, which the NHS will be a huge part of. So the next thing I'd like to just put across is, you know, as Sam, you were saying about provision, I'd like to look at what the most important provision is for people out there, practitioners on the ground, to be aware of how you get people into a service. So for Midland Partnership Foundation Trust and our mental health provision, I think one of the services that everybody should be aware of, and this is a service that you can self-refer in, it doesn't have to be a professional, you can self-refer, is the Access Team. So the Access Team is a 24/7 service every day of the year. And although it was classed as for adult mental health, which is what's on the leaflets, at the beginning of the pandemic, the age restriction came out of it. So even for young, younger persons, it will still be the same number now and the same service. So to try and make things a little bit more easy to access across the board from the beginning of the sort of pandemic, this is not age related anymore. It's not just for adults. So the access service is for everybody, age restricted. It's accessible to everybody, so it can be self-referral as well. On the leaflet that I've given out, it is a leaflet that's been revamped as we speak, but it hasn't actually been brought out yet, so I couldn't bring it to us, but I can bring it to the council for you to have on your website, etc. when we've got that. But there is a free phone number now that's been added onto this. Obviously, believe it or not, some people would struggle to access because they said they hadn't got credit, etc., because it was at a local rate number. But we now have a free phone number of 0808 196 3002. So that's the free phone number, which isn't on the leaflet. So the Access Team is for people that have a concern about their mental health or psychological well-being. It's access into secondary services. So you speak to a qualified member of staff on the phone who's knowledgeable about different services and options. And it may be that they'll just have a conversation with you and signpost you somewhere else or support you with a referral somewhere else. Or if deemed appropriate, then the practitioner from the Access service would arrange for a further contact with you from themselves. So the Access Team is a phone service only, phone support only. They will triage whatever the need is and put you down whatever path is appropriate. So it might be a referral into another service external from us, or it might be for an assessment with one of our pathway teams. So we have a number of pathway teams: community intervention pathway, intensive life skills pathway, the psychosis team, early intervention team, crisis response team. So the Access Team triages the need. So absolutely imperative for everybody to know this service, because you know what we're looking for, isn't it? We want to sort of no wrong door sort of provision, really. So we'd rather you phone up and be signposted to the appropriate service than to not phone up and be in distress. So that's the Access service. The other services that Midland Partnership Foundation Trust have got currently is we've got two aspects to it. So it's the Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent Wellbeing Service. And there's two aspects to this service. It's classed as an IAPT service. So your IAPT service is a primary care, and IAPT stands for, I've written it down somewhere because I keep forgetting what it is, but it's basically access to psychological treatments. Because there was a big drive a number of years back where there's a massive awareness that there's lots of psychological issues out there, and people end up struggling to access it, having to wait long periods of time, and then not having sort of regular sort of appointments with the practitioners that are appropriate to carry out the intervention. So we've got Midland Partnership Foundation Trust started with this service from the 1st of April this year. So probably not the best time to take over a service in the middle of the pandemic, but it's up and running and it's doing well. Now, IAPT staff have got dual diagnosis link workers that work in the IAPT service as well. They're saying the same thing. So they're getting lots of people coming through with your sort of COVID-related anxieties impacting on them hugely. And this is a service very similar to the Access Team. So, there's a contact number there. You phone up and you'll be triaged. If it's not appropriate for you to be in the IAPT service, then they will signpost you elsewhere, i.e. if they think the risk's too great or it needs a much prompter response, then Wellbeing Service will support you with the referral through to the Access Team or guide you to the Access Team. Vice versa, if you go through to the Access Team and they think actually it's more for an IAPT service approach, then they will support you with the referral through to the Wellbeing service, or direct you to the Wellbeing service. So the first leaflet that I've sent through there for the Stoke-on-Trent Wellbeing service is long-term conditions. So being based from the crisis team, I've got a big awareness that we used to see for a lot of people that have long-term health conditions. And one of the issues that you see a lot of is chronic pain. So obviously people that suffer with chronic pain and it can't be managed clinically with medications, which is unfortunately quite often the case. The IAP service can help with some sort of counselling for sort of ongoing pain. So that's a new service which is taken up on quite well. And they look at different types of therapies to look at pain management, worries about physical health, sort of health-related anxieties. So, you know, if you get people come through that are, you know, we get it in the crisis team like quite a lot, unfortunately, where if you've got chronic pain for long periods of time, it can really affect your mental state, and, you know, it can lead to sort of suicidal ideation at times as well. So chronic pain should never be sort of taken lightly. So yeah, so some of the sort of conditions that they look at sort of support for psychologically is diabetes, you know, your respiratory problems, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, irritable bowel syndrome, and any other sort of long-term conditions. So, and the contact number to refer yourself through to that, which is on the leaflet, is 0300 303 0923. And again, no wrong door. There's no reason why, you know, give them a ring. And if it's not the right service for you, they will let you know. Or if it is, they will triage you or signpost you in the right direction. So the other Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent Wellbeing service is the IAPT counselling service. So looking at COVID and a lot of the social sort of related COVID anxieties and a lot of the issues around psychological sort of distress with, you know, losing jobs, relationship breakdowns, financial issues, that sort of stuff. Those sort of issues in the shorter term, if not dealt with, end up building up and affecting people's mental health to a somewhat degenerative stage. So it's really important that we use the IAP service appropriately and get people in there quickly to get some sort of support. So the sort of problems that the IAP service deal with is sort of low mood, depression, worry, anxiety, panic, social anxiety, phobias, obsessions and compulsions, sort of post-traumatic stress. And I think we are going to have an increase in sort of post-traumatic stress because a lot of things that have gone on through COVID are quite abnormal events for people, and abnormal events is what lead to post-traumatic stress. So health anxieties, you know, all those sort of things can be dealt with to the IAP service. So they look at carrying out an assessment of your needs, and they'll do cognitive behavioural therapy, interpersonal therapy. They'll do couples therapy and family, you know, couples counselling. They do a lot of guided self-help information, group workshops and short courses. They can also offer advice on things like improving sleep, medication management, side effects, and problem solving with, as we spoke about before, employment, finances, housing and relationships. They also, you know, look at their website. The website has a lot of sort of resources on self-management for various different things. As well, Midland Partnership Foundation Trust also has a lot of resources on all sort of aspects of managing well-being, really. And it also looks at what other services we've got available. But I think as practitioners on the ground and for people to, you know, to self-refer in. So there's a number there, 24/7. The access service number is one that we, you know, again, I think we need to focus on that. There's no sort of wrong door if it's psychological, you know, distress. If there's risk involved as well, you know, if a person is a risk to themselves or others, if you need a very prompt action, obviously it would be the police, but the access team are contactable 24/7, and the access team will triage the need. And if it looks there's a sort of a quick response needed, then the crisis team are accessible through the access service. They will do a referral through to the crisis team, and the crisis team is a 4-hour response time. So yeah. 2 really important services there. So open to any questions.
Thank you, Danny. That was really, really valuable. I've been asked in the chat if we can circulate these leaflets afterwards because all the information there is so valuable. So I will make sure that that happens. A couple of questions for you, please. The first one's quite a simple one. Could you just give us an understanding of what a dual diagnosis worker is? What does dual diagnosis mean, please?
So dual diagnosis is somebody that has a mental health diagnosis, okay, so a secondary service mental health diagnosis, and problematically misuses, not uses, but problematically misuses drugs and or alcohol with detriment to their mental health.
Great, thank you. That was really clear. And the second question, which is one that I'm going to be putting to all of our panelists today, and I think you've offered us lots of really great information about how to access lots of services, lots of telephone numbers, lots of websites. People are concerned about a digital divide. Folks in our communities who can't access digital stuff, don't want to, maybe don't have confidence or low skills. How can you reassure those attendees today that the services you've referred to today are available to people regardless of their digital abilities?
So if we look at the website for Midland Partnership Foundation Trust, it's accessible, and the access team is accessible not just by phone but also by email, and that's on the website, on our website. So the access team is it isn't a face-to-face service, okay? So it's a phone-in service, and that has been increased to a sort of accessible by email as well. But all our other services will be phone calls. We use one consultation quite a lot in the sort of pandemic to reduce the face-to-face contact down. Now, that's not necessarily because we don't want to be putting our staff at risk, although obviously we want to take care of our staff. But the fact that if we continue to keep doing face-to-face appointments with everybody, then we're the spreaders. Okay, and we have actually had a number of people come down with COVID in MPFT, but it's being managed, and we're being tested twice a week at the moment, all our staff. So we've got face-to-face visits have never stopped with Midland Partnership Foundation Trust. They've carried on throughout the pandemic and do currently. Obviously, they're as assessed as required. So, you know, we tend to rag rate the red, amber, green rag rating system for face-to-face visits. But it isn't about us not wanting to see other people. It's about us wanting to reduce the risk to people that we see. And obviously, we're flexible to meet the need of what suits the person best. So from my dual diagnosis forum that I ran last in October, which is where the information about how COVID has sort of changed the face of what we're doing, some services are saying that a lot of people don't want to take up on the one consultation, so they prefer phone calls.
One consultation is the app, right?
One consultation is the app. So at our end, the professional will be using Microsoft Teams, and the platform that the service user will be on is one consultation. That's the NHS supported platform. So the service user will need internet. They will need an email address. So we send a link through email, and they click in it, and they sit in a waiting room, and then we see them the other end through one consultation. So that's worked very, very well for some services. The intensive life skills pathway says it's actually increased their engagement with their service users. And some of the other services, it suits some people, it doesn't others. So it'll be phone call or face to face. So that's how we've managed it at the moment. I'm not so sure about groups, because I think obviously the way we used to run quite a few groups, and those groups have had to diminish down due to numbers and the sort of spacings in rooms. So the groups have had to diminish, unfortunately, through COVID, but they'll be back up and running as soon as possible.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you for that. That's really, really useful. Really appreciate your time today, Danny. I know that you can't stay with us for the whole session, so I'll give you special thanks now for joining us. And I think we need to move on now to our next speaker. So thanks, Danny. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you all. Take care.
So
Bye-bye.
Next up, I have got Dan Gibbons from Resolve. Welcome, Dan. Thank you for joining us. I know you've got some slides to share with us too, so I'm just going to let you kick off. No more introduction needed.
Absolutely. I will begin to share my screen, and I'll make a start. There we go. So I'm Dan Gibbons, and I represent Resolve. And it's going to be kind of a brief introduction really around our community prevention work that we're carrying out around emotional well-being specifically. For those of you who might not be aware of who Resolve are, we're based in Stone, Staffordshire. We've been there since 1984, and we're very much a specialist substance misuse charity. We have a national reach and presence, but locally we very much focus on community prevention work. Now, this was all made possible, of course, by funding from Stafford Borough Council and the Community Wellbeing Partnership. We managed to secure some funding that allowed us to work locally with communities, professional organisations, a very much a broad reach. And it's about instilling information and guidance and support within the community. Specifically, we focus on such things as alcohol and substance misuse, which does cover quite a broad remit of topics, and emotional and well-being issues, because we often find that they do tend to go hand in hand to some extent. Now, if we look a little bit closer to the actual support, so what are we kind of really offering? Well, the three main types of support is very much the one-to-one early intervention, and that's really important. So making sure that individuals can get the support they need, or signposted to the relevant local organisations, and that's really a huge part of it. We're not here to replicate or take over. It's very much to feed into existing organisations and bolster their awareness within the community, and also make sure that people know where they can get the access from. Beyond that, we have a helpline at Resolve. I appreciate people need support outside Monday to Friday, but we are a charitable status, so we are slightly restricted, but there is a helpline there. We have a live chat service, which you can access from our website. There's a box in the bottom right-hand corner that clicks, do you need extra support, or words to that effect. If you click on that, it will populate and you'll be in touch with one of the members of staff at Resolve. Of course, it's completely confidential. You don't need to give us any particular details, but it's another way of reassuring people that there is support there. Not everybody is overly comfortable with sharing excess details, and sometimes it's a quick question or there's an ongoing support need there, which we're happy to pick up. And quite importantly, it's that one-to-one outreach. Yes, that has taken a little bit of a back seat of late, given the current circumstances with COVID, but outreach events, drop-ins dotted all around Stafford, engaging with people face-to-face. It's the most effective way of doing so, and making sure, people that might not have access to social media, the internet, or much prefer a human interaction, we're on hand there to deliver that kind of triage information, give on-hand support, and then beyond that, filter into coexisting or already existing services. What else do we have? We also have mental health community sessions. Again, this was a little bit easier, I must admit, pre-COVID, because we would use churches, community centres, schools, cafes, you name it. If there was an opportunity to use a premises to get people together to educate and train and support, then that's absolutely what we would do. Training about alcohol and substance misuse. Now, this does change. Substance misuse covers a broad spectrum of topics, and it's not always the same up and down the country. It can be localized. So we try to support with topical information that's relevant to the area. I've already kind of touched on, but the community outreach sessions and drop-ins are of absolute importance, and we will continue those as and when it's permitted and it's allowed. Age-appropriate sessions for young people, and we do sessions as young as junior school, year 6, all the way through high school, colleges, even to university age. So we are trying to have a very much an open door when it comes to age restriction. There isn't anything regarding that. It's very much trying to make sure we can access all people from all backgrounds and ages. And then there's a more specialist support for maybe professional organisations, training for teachers and or parents. We've held many parents consultations and support groups as well. People who've got concerns or questions that they can ask in a confidential manner. Now, Looking slightly different away from the internet, we have free resources which are printable. We have these to go. We've already distributed some of these within the communities, but of course we are a relatively small organisation. We've had some great help by local partners as well, allowing to get these into areas that maybe we wouldn't have been able to. But absolutely, we have a number of printed resources for those people that are more comfortable with a hard copy as opposed to something digital. Online again, we're trying to adapt to the current circumstances. We have numerous YouTube videos on emotional well-being, nitrous oxide, alcohol. There are several others as well. I'm more than happy to share the links with partners or anybody who's interested in those. Why is the work so important? Of course, we're just, we're trying to react to an ever-changing world, and of course, we know that emotional well-being is quite critical at this moment in time. There's lots of change. It's new change, so we're making sure that people have the access to that support, even if people are in isolated circumstances. And as I've touched on previously, substance use, they tend to go hand in hand when we're looking at coping strategies, self-medicating because of stress, anxiety, pressures of life. And of course, it's not just the person involved. It can have a wider impact on families, relationships, finances, and even work. So it's really important that people can access that support and the information. And really, it's a calling to people that are maybe watching the catch-up or the live stream. Get in touch. If we can support in any way, offer our services, information, resources, all you need to do is get in touch, and we'll absolutely work out a way of supporting. It's not a one-size-fits-all, so we're very flexible in our working approach, very much tailored to your audience or what it is that you would require. And, very short but sweet, there's a kind of a screenshot of our website. There's the phone number there, which is a local free phone number. And of course, there's the little get in touch button on our website, which comes straight through to us should you have any questions, concerns, or require any support. And that's my presentation. And obviously, I'm happy to answer any questions that might have cropped up.
Dan, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and appreciate it was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. We gave you a really tight timeline there to get through a lot of very, very valuable information. So really appreciate that. There are a couple of questions. As I asked our previous speaker, you've got your free phone number, you've got a lot of stuff online. Just to kind of clarify and reassure us around what Resolve can do for people who are not comfortable with digital access to services.
Well, very much so. I mean, we of course we have the printed resources, and I know it's probably, it doesn't suit everybody. And as I mentioned previously, face-to-face is really the best medium of communication and interaction with human beings. We're social beings at the end of the day, and that's really quite vital. So as much as things have certainly changed and venues have restrictions, as and when I will absolutely be out there in the community using the venues that are open to carry out our one-to-one, our signposting, our drop-in support. If there are services or organisations that would require face-to-face training or education, absolutely. I mean, we'll probably have to, let's look at the situations and making sure that they're kind of COVID safe or COVID friendly, but it's certainly not off the table. If there is any organisation out there that require that kind of more face-to-face, it's certainly the way that I prefer it anyway. But beyond that, absolute good old telephone support is there as well. And if anybody requires any printed information or even letters, nothing's off the table. If we can help and support, we absolutely will.
Thank you. Really, really appreciate that. And I think that's so right, actually, that even if you can't always give the face-to-face service that you want to in every instance, because that is more restricted at the moment, certainly by being able to pass that training on digitally, with this kind of virtual world that we're working in with other organisations, that will enable them to take that signposted information out into the world in a more face-to-face way. Absolutely. So there are ways and means around the circumstances that we're in. I appreciate that. Another question for you, if you don't mind, was we received a question from Parish Council, Ingestre and Tixall, about complicated benefit systems, complicated systems generally when people need to access help, DWP and things like that. They are often online, and that digital divide is kind of outside of our hands very often. Those are services that you're not running, I'm not running. And actually, we rely a lot on agencies to support people to navigate those systems, to be able to complete applications. And the point that was put to me was, what we really need to see is great education. And you mentioned, life skills and kind of giving young people that confidence to avoid those anxieties and stresses that might come later in life. Can you speak a little bit more for us just on that kind of early education that prevents people from being excluded because of digital later in life, and actually prevent some of those anxieties from coming about?
Yeah, it is very much having the conversation and starting the conversation. And I know schools are absolutely up against it currently, and especially more so now than ever before. And maybe some of the other key skills and core skills have maybe had to take a little bit of a back seat regarding that. Simple things like money management, finances, cooking. There are plenty of things that have, that aren't as easily accessible, or it's a little bit more convoluted. I mean, certainly my role, yes, primarily the focus, we're looking at substance use here, we're looking at emotional well-being, but actually the conversations, tend to wend the way that they go anyway. So often there, I'm also a resource to point people in the right direction, being in the community, engaging with other services as well. I'm probably more aware of the support that's actually on the ground than they are. And I know a number of great community-based organizations that have things like drop-ins for finances or for the DWP, for instance. So for me, that, it's me leading into another organization and making sure that they can get the access to that. Or quite simply put, if I don't have the answer, I certainly have a phone, I could get the information for them and pass it on to them. So, it's not about doing one particular thing, and I'm sure Danny Finch would also agree with that in terms of, we all wear many hats. So, absolutely, we're there to support and, to bolster the other organizations.
Yeah, so true. It's so important, and I think really positive and assuring for me that all of our partners today and, in other arenas that I've been in recently have said we all want to work on a basis of no wrong door, and we will all want to signpost to each other. If we can't help, we know a man who can, that kind of sentiment. And that's really, really valuable. So thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation today. Okay, I need to just give us a slight alteration to our agenda this morning, just because of time. And so I'm very grateful to welcome Esther Bromley next from Support Staffordshire. Esther's going to present to us on befriending. And Esther, just before you start, I will just let you know we did have an early question prior to your presentation. People are looking forward to this. And Councillor Parkin from the Yarnfield and Coldmeath Parish Council really wants to know how they could go about setting up a befriending service. So I'm sure you're going to cover that and your online training offer. And I'll leave the floor to you. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Hopefully you can all see my screen now. So welcome everybody. My name's Esther Bromley, as Sam said then. I work for Support Staffordshire, and I deliver a lot of our training on a whole variety of different topics. And like many of us, my world has very much moved online just lately. Interestingly, just before I started, obviously you've been talking about digital, and we're certainly very aware at Support Staffordshire how difficult digital inclusion is for many people across in the community. And actually the reason that I've been put on at this point is because I have to leave at 11 to deliver something just on that topic. So one of the things that I am delivering is some supportive communities training, whereby it's for anybody in any role in the community, where we're talking about signposting, resources, communication skills, a little bit around safeguarding, a little bit around assistive technology, but also those digital skills. Now, like any of the rest of us, I don't have any magic solutions. I don't have bunches of tablets and laptops or a great broadband connection to some of our more rural parts of our county. However, I do have loads of hints and tips of how to help somebody get get online, how to help somebody get through that process of finding what to do online, and loads of resources in that. So I will show you the link to where all that training is, and it's available to absolutely anybody in the county, whatever they're doing in whatever role. So just to bear that in mind. So I do deliver a lot of training, as I say, on a variety of subjects, and we have been working quite closely at Support Staffordshire with what we've called the mutual aid groups. So these are groups that have sprung up, either brand new groups across the county, or they've been splinters to existing organisations. Parish councils are certainly one of them, where they've responded to the need, because we know actually there's loads of people out there that are really isolated, they're really vulnerable, they need our support and they need our help. And absolutely, befriending is part of that. I do run this training as a sort of 1.5 hour Zoom session at the moment. If it was face to face, it would be around about 3 hours, and it is available across the county. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what it is. First of all, I'm sure many of you have got individuals that you are working with or supporting or helping in any way, shape or form with loads and loads of different issues. These are some of the things you might see. You know, we've talked about loneliness and isolation. How crippling is isolation for people? It really is. It makes a massive impact on their mental and physical health. And we've known that for years, how worse that is at the moment, how we know that there are people that haven't left the house in 8 or 9 months or even longer. So loneliness and isolation, most definitely a problem that we see. That lack of activity, if you're not leaving the house, if you're not getting out there, if you're not going to social groups, if you're not doing that sort of thing, then again, that has an impact on your physical and mental health. We also know there's eating, drinking and weight management issues, as was our previous speaker spoke about, you know, both up and over and under. We do definitely see that. And people who have difficulties looking after a home and staying independent. We know there's problems with falls. That lack of activity, that lack of exercise that people do out there absolutely leads to a deterioration of muscles, and that then increases risks of people's falls. Debt, that's already been alluded to today. And bereavement. At the moment, I'm just starting a bereavement network whereby I'm trying to assess what the services are across the county, because how difficult has it been for those people who've not been able to say goodbye to their loved ones in perhaps the normal ways that they would have done, perhaps not had the normal support that you would do in normal times when we can hug each other and see loved ones as much as we want to. Mental and physical health, we've obviously already said. And those people who've got caring responsibilities, again, I know how difficult a role that is. It's very stressful on people. So caring is something that people are really struggling with. So befriending is something that lots of groups have started up, and we've got loads of information, advice and guidance around it as an organisation, and we can absolutely help with setting up schemes. And I definitely recommend that you get in touch with Anne Ross, who is our locality officer for Stafford. Now, I cover much more broadly across the county because I deliver a lot of the training, but Anne Ross is the person who works locally within Stafford, and she would absolutely help you in that way. And we've got lots and lots of tools and resources that you can have, and fact sheets and all of that sort of thing. But this training perhaps takes people through the fundamentals of befriending. So what I cover, so what I talk about is, first of all, is what is befriending. Befriending, sometimes people don't understand the term. They think it's a little bit about being friends with somebody or just being that source of support. But actually, befriending is an actual role. It is a task to do. And this basically sums it up. It's a voluntary, mutually beneficial and purposeful relationship in which support an individual gives to support somebody else to make a change over the course of their life. And that is very much what befriending is about. That has altered a little bit over the last 9 months, because we know that people who perhaps haven't needed that maybe a year ago absolutely need it now. But doing befriending properly is about not creating a dependency. So it is about checking in on somebody, but it's doing it in a safe way, because otherwise being a befriender has a huge emotional toll on people. And I've definitely seen that happen with some of our groups, and they become overwhelmed. And I've seen people who have got to this point and they've given it their all, and actually now they're really fatigued. They're really struggling to continue their role. So putting some proper boundaries and systems around befriending is actually really important. Befriending is absolutely not trying to solve somebody's problems. It's not trying to solve everything that they have difficulties with, because we're not equipped to do that. We're not experts in every part of life, in every difficulty, those issues I just mentioned. But what we can do is we can give somebody attention, we can give them support, we can signpost them. So some of the services we're talking about today, some of those services on Stafford Borough Council and elsewhere, absolutely are places we can signpost to. And it's also about encouraging choice, because it's all very well for us to march in on our white horse and go, we've got this service and that service that we think would suit you. But actually for people, it's about them having control of themselves and knowing what's right for them, for their own particular circumstances. But of course, most crucially at the moment, it does help to reduce that social isolation. As Dan absolutely said, and I totally agree, we are social beings. We are not meant to be alone. We're not meant to be in isolation. So what does the training cover? First of all, it's about understanding the befriending relationship. What is it? And equally, what is it not? It's not that be-all and end-all person that somebody essentially relies on. It's not taking the role of a paid carer. It's not doing that sort of thing. It is about just supporting somebody, helping them find their way and navigate through their lives. We'll also talk about understanding different listening techniques and what is empathy. What is empathy versus sympathy? Sometimes sympathy can be used wrongly with people and we can come across a little bit patronising, but actually listening techniques are a really good way. And one of the things I talk about, even in the supportive community training that I deliver, is about active listening and what we can do to show somebody that we're really paying attention to them, that we're really showing them that we're understanding them and going to help them. So we'll cover that. Holding an effective first meeting, that is really crucial in any befriending relationship. It sets out what it's all about, what that person can and can't do, what's going to happen, how things will progress within that system. Then it's about managing expectations within the relationship. What is the role of a befriender? You'd cover that. What is acceptable behaviour? What isn't? Things like giving out personal telephone numbers, for example, isn't perhaps best practice, because again, it can lead to those dependencies with somebody. Boundaries is covered. Boundaries is really important to put in place with befrienders, because it's so easy for them to slip. And I go through some of the signs that they are starting to slip and that person is starting to rely on them much more than they would have done otherwise. Ending a befriending relationship. I know that seems weird to talk about right at the beginning, but actually it is a finite relationship. You're not in there to be somebody's friend for the rest of their lives. You are in there to do a role for a specified period or for a specified issue, like at the moment it might be until we return to some sort of normality, and then you encourage that person to return to whatever lives they had previous. And finally, identifying needs and signposting. Again, I talk quite a lot about what support is out there, how can people go and access other things, because as I say, we are definitely not experts in every area, and it's important that we know that. And it's also important that we know how to refer to somebody and make sure that we've got their permission and their consent in order to give their details to any other organisation at all, and pass them on. So that's broadly what it covers. I'm going to show you a slightly different screen, which is on, well, I'll just show you that screen actually first. On this next slide these are links. They are embedded within the PowerPoint. So when you receive them, you've just got to click them and that will take you to the web page and it'll open up in the browser of your choice, or alternatively, that's the email address that you can find out more information about. But just to show you what it looks like, that is our upcoming training there. And as you scroll down, you will see, obviously, the supportive communities training, which I'm delivering in 3 minutes, so no stress there. We go down, and there's lots of other different types of training available: trustee training, policies and procedures, adult safeguarding, all of those things that we are currently delivering on Zoom. And then that is the befriending skills session itself. And there'll be opportunities within that to obviously ask lots and lots of questions. So that is pretty much it. I will just stop sharing for a second and ask if there's anything I can cover really quickly before I disappear.
Esther, thank you so much. Really, really valuable. I really want to urge people to go and take up that opportunity of that training. It is so important. And people that are asking us, how do we go about starting a service? I think there's no better place to start than to really understand what it means to be a good befriender and to understand how to manage those expectations and boundaries and the kinds of skills and empathetic techniques that are needed to do that really well. Certainly, just from my point of view, when the Borough Council ran some safe and well telephone calls in the first lockdown, heard from people who didn't necessarily want to acknowledge that they were lonely. Certainly they were isolated, but when we would offer a befriending service, they would sort of say, well, no, I've got friends, I just need to be able to get back and see them again. And obviously it's been a really long time since we were in that, March, April time where we felt like perhaps we would get to see our friends in a few short weeks and we could hang on. People can't hang on anymore. And I think if, groups and services want to do something to plug that gap, people that had that hope and have maybe gone a long time with no contact, really, really valuable place to start is the training that you've offered. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me.
But if there are any other questions, please don't hesitate to email me and I will do my best to answer them.
That's wonderful. We will let you go because you've got more important work to do, and we'll certainly share the links and the content that you've provided us with today for the benefit of our attendees. So thank you, Esther, and take care.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. So last but not least, I'm really, really pleased to invite Sharon Whitchurch from Starfish Health and Wellbeing today. Sharon is a senior social prescriber. Social prescribing is something that I am really, really quite passionate about. I think it's a really valuable service. Sharon's got some great skills and tools to offer. So I won't say any more on your behalf, Sharon. I'll let you take the floor and give us your presentation, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very new to the senior role, as in about 3 weeks. So it's also, I'm still learning, but hopefully this presentation will all go according to plan and everything will be fine. So let's hope. So, fingers crossed. Yay, can you all see? Brilliant. Okay, so yeah, I'm the Senior Community Link Advisor. Social prescribing has lots of different titles as for the person who does the role, but the overarching contract is called social prescribing. There is a short video that can probably explain more succinctly than I ever can. It's not produced by us, but it's there and it's available. So fingers crossed it works. Let's have a go. It's whirring and going. I do have backup notes just in case. Can you all hear that okay? Whether you can hear it?
Oh, can now, Sharon, yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh, sorry, Sharon, I can't hear that.
Okay.
The issues that can't be fixed by doctors and medicine alone. At its most basic, a social prescription offers the kind of help that doesn't come in a tube or a bottle. The idea behind social prescribing is to help you to have more control over your healthcare and find ways to manage your needs in a way that suits you. There are lots of different ways of providing social prescribing services. It often starts with a conversation, perhaps with a link worker, a support broker, or a community navigator. Whatever they are called, they are there to listen to you and put you in touch with whatever it is you might need in order to feel better. That might mean being introduced to a community group, a new activity or a local club. It could be legal advice, volunteers to help around the house. It might just be information and guidance, a bit of inside knowledge on your situation and what local resources there are available. It could even be some support in how to create something new. Studies show that individuals with social prescriptions get better and feel better faster than those treated with medicine alone. And because it works, it's happening more and more. To find out how it can work for you, talk to your doctor, health professional, or local authority today.
Right, now hopefully there we go. Right, so that's social prescribing in a bit of a nutshell, really. We work with anybody on a non-medical intervention. There are social prescribers up and down the country. We at Stafford don't unfortunately cover all of the surgeries and all of the GP practices. I've included a list here of the areas that we're currently covering. It does have to be a referral through a GP at the moment, or a GP surgery, I should say, at the moment. Whether that be the person themselves going to the surgery and say, I'd like a referral made to the social prescriber, whether it would be a GP who might identify that the support is needed, or it may be a nurse practitioner, a nurse, a receptionist. We can take the referrals from anybody. The main ambition, and it does sound very grand, it's to work together to tackle all of the environmental, social, economic issues that are impacting, especially with what's happened this year. It's been a year that I think we would all like to forget. And without a shadow of a doubt, it's been hard on everybody, even the people who think they've got it all together, not necessarily have had so. So we work with anyone. They have to be aged 18 plus. But what we work on is we work on a person-centred approach to work out what's important to them, what skills they can bring to the table, and how we can help them make positive changes to their environment. So anybody is the answer to that. Who we work with is anybody. They must be aged 18 plus. So unfortunately, at the moment, we can't work in our particular contract. We can't work with people who are aged under 18, but it can be anybody. So it can be somebody that maybe has fallen out of work due to COVID or another reason. It could be somebody who's got some concerns with their housing. They need some benefit support. Literally anything. Originally, it was kind of started off as an intervention for somebody who would perhaps be a regular attender to a surgery, because if you're poorly, whether that be physical, mental, emotional, the first person you will instinctively go to is your doctor. But a doctor can't necessarily help, which is where we've kind of stepped in. So anybody that's got a low level mental health issue can come to us. If they want to get in touch with the community group, although obviously a lot of those have been taken online, etc. at the moment, anybody like that we can work with. As I said, at the moment, it has to come via the surgery. We can't take referrals from other organisations. However, if you're working with somebody and you think that they would be ideal to work with the social prescribing service, if they're registered with one of the surgeries that we're working with, there's nothing stopping the patient themselves going to the surgery and making that referral. So although it has to come through the surgery, it doesn't have to be by a medical professional. So anybody can raise that referral. It can be self, it can be a GP, it can be a nurse practitioner, it can be a midwife, the staying well service, anybody, but they've got to be linked to one of the surgeries that we work in. If you're working with somebody that doesn't work, so it isn't registered with one of our surgeries, let us know, because we may be able to put you in touch with the social prescribing team that does cover that surgery anyway. So we would never want somebody to not be able to access our service. A lot of people, they're quite anxious at the moment, and I just thought I'd kind of recap on what a typical patient journey would be, just so that you can perhaps give them a little bit of reassurance. When we get a referral, we give them a ring, have a quick chat with them, let them know they've been referred to us, and then arrange a telephone call. It is telephone based at the moment. We will do home visits, but again, it goes back to what people have said. It's about minimising that risk at the moment, for them and for us. And if we can do it over the telephone, certainly to get started, we will. We'll cover personal plans and goals, what they would like to achieve, where they've come from, what kind of support network they may have in place already. And then from there, they can have up to 4 further interventions with us if it's appropriate. They're all individually tailored to what the patient needs. We constantly review the goals that we've discussed and agreed and set together. If they've been achieved, brilliant. If they haven't, is there an obstacle? What can we do to help facilitate it? We contact all of the guys that have been on this morning, so we can be the ones to make that referral to your access team, to the Carers Association, to Support Staffordshire, to Resolve, to any of those. If somebody's not quite confident of where to go to get that information, or how to get that information, or they just need somebody to almost hold their hand to make it happen, we can do that for them. And yeah, that's what we do. It's so vast and so varied. No 2 days are the same. Any questions, please feel free to drop me an email or give me a ring, and I'll do my best to answer. So thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Really appreciate it. It's a great presentation. Like I said before, social prescribing is something that I think is so valuable. It's so helpful to know that people can go into a GP surgery, which is a real trusted place for many, and whether or not they actually see the GP in the first instance or just kind of approach other members of practice staff, that they could be referred or refer themselves into you and just really be given, 45 minutes is a decent chunk of time. It's more than many professionals get face to face with an individual who might just have a host of things going on mentally and they don't know where to start. Which issue shall I deal with first? Here, you have them all and help me sift through them. And I think that's such a valuable role. And I appreciate it's difficult at the moment with not being able to do all of your stuff face to face. I presume that it was pretty much all face to face prior to COVID.
It was. Yeah. The majority of the time we were based in one of the surgeries. And we would see people there. We will go out to do home visits. We'd like to take it away from the surgery in the future and be able to meet in more public places. Before COVID hit, I did meet a patient. She wanted to go to a walking group, but she hadn't got the confidence to go on her own. So one of our sessions was me attending the first walking group with her, so she got a familiar face.
Yeah, so you shouldn't underestimate that value of literally walking side by side with someone. It takes a lot of pressure off when you don't have to sit across a desk in an office and be face to face and maintain that kind of eye contact and that level of conversation for a long time. I certainly know a relative of mine had some support a couple of years back, and the person supporting them took them to a football match. They could stand side by side, there was other things to kind of occupy the conversation. And I think the benefit of the time that you have and the relationship that you have makes it really, really worthwhile what you can offer, and just help people to get to the root cause of anxieties. You might not need a sleeping pill. You might not need, to go and take up another service if you can work through some of your concerns and your nervousness and build that confidence with a social prescriber. I noticed Sarah's popped in the chat. So Starfish Health and Wellbeing is a significant provider that cover a large number of surgeries in this area. There is another provider. So for folks watching who are thinking, I didn't see my surgery listed in there, we do have 2 more social prescribers from Support Staffordshire covering several other surgeries. So do have a little look in the chat to see which ones those are. And obviously you'll be able to review Sharon's slides to see that list again and get the contact info. So Sarah, if I can ask you to pop my slides back up. Sharon, thanks again.
You're welcome.
Well done.
Thank you.
We'll just have the last couple of minutes now. Apologies, we did go slightly over today, but there was just so much information to share, and it really felt like, you know, we wanted to make sure you guys got the best of that valuable information that was on offer from all of our speakers today. So here's a reminder of the contacts. At the top there, you've got contact information for myself and Sarah Ruff at the Borough Council. We are welcoming all feedback from people that are attending these sessions, the good and the bad, please. Anything that you think we could do better. And also any thoughts for the future. As I said before, we've launched this with 3 webinars this week, but by no means is that the end. We would like to revisit this as long as I can make the technology work and save my blushes in future. But if there are topics that you're interested in hearing about, speakers that you'd like to see, do email us and let us know, and we'll do our very best to cater to the needs of those of you who are serving communities. It's so important. Please do remember that if you want to attend this afternoon at 2 p.m. for our sustainability and capacity building session, you need to register for that individually. You can go to the Stafford Borough Council /talk to us website to see the registration links there. And also you will be able to view these sessions retrospectively on the YouTube channel, and we're going to make sure that we post those links to you individually and on social media over the next few days. There's another important service that I did want to touch on today. We don't have a speaker on it, but if Sarah can just give me the next slide. The Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent Suicide Prevention Programme is offering some funded, that means free, to participants, awareness and prevention training. I know that that's a really sensitive subject. It's very emotive and potentially triggering for many people who've had experience. However, the training is something that I've not seen actually in the last few years, and it's being run by North Staff's Mind and brought to us by the Together We're Better partnership. There's some contact information at the bottom of the screen there for Lorna, where you can book a place if suicide prevention is a topic that you would like to know more on. I regularly share information from the County Council's campaign on Safe Talk, which is to say that talking about suicide does not make it happen, but we can all learn something, I think, about the skills and techniques that can be used to support someone if we have a fear that they may be considering suicide. Just going to have a very quick check of the chat to make sure I've covered all the questions. I can see a couple of you reaching out for Sharon, so that's great. We'll be able to put you in touch. Thank you so much all for attending, and I hope that we will see you again this afternoon at our next webinar. And a massive thanks to all of our speakers today for presenting. Really value your time, guys. Thank you.